Alright, I think I'm live now over here at PMP Lounge YouTube channel, and I just wanted to go live and cover a question that we often receive over here at PMP Lounge, and that is if I read, and this of course is a question from the PMP aspirants, and they want to know if they read the PMBOK guide multiple times, cover to cover, is that enough to clear the PMP exam? So reading the PMBOK guide multiple times, cover to cover, learning everything that there is in the PMBOK guide, is that enough to clear the PMP exam? So, on the contrary, I'd like to mention that reading the PMBOK guide for you to be able to clear the exam is actually not required. You may have met people, you may have heard of people who have not even read the PMBOK guide and yet they cleared the PMP exam. So reading the PMBOK guide multiple times and learning everything that there is in the PMBOK guide is not enough to clear the exam. In fact, it is not even required. You can refer to other books and still clear the PMP exam. However, personally, and this is also the view of a lot of project management experts, that reading the PMBOK guide is worth it. It's worthwhile. It's a big book. I understand it's quite fat. I understand it has a lot of things, but it's totally worth it to read and invest your time in reading the PMBOK guide, because first and foremost, the language that you will see in the exam, the language that you will see in the PMP exam, the questions, right? They are basically the language that you see in the PMBOK guide. So in order to understand the project management language, you must read the PMBOK guide. It is extremely important, it is highly recommended, and it is totally worthwhile to read the PMBOK guide. But then, reading the PMBOK guide cover to cover multiple times, learning everything that there is in the PMBOK guide is not enough for you to clear the PMP exam. Please understand, it is not sufficient. PMBOK guide is only a guide to the PMP exam. The PMP exam is not a test of the PMBOK guide, right? It is not a courseware of the PMP exam. The PMBOK guide is not the courseware of the PMP exam. So make sure you read the PMBOK guide, but also make sure that you understand the fact that reading PMBOK guide multiple times does not result in you clearing the PMP exam. Just because you have read it multiple times is a no guarantee that you will clear the PMP exam. PMP exam is not a test of the PMBOK guide. Now, first and foremost, a lot of people who basically come up with this kind of questions are the same people who find the PMBOK guide quite dry, quite boring, and difficult to understand as well. So yeah, so like I said, it is not important, it is important, but it is not mandatory for you to read the PMBOK guide to be able to clear the PMP exam, but it is definitely worthwhile and it is definitely suggested that you read the PMBOK guide in order to clear the PMP exam. Of course, it is not sufficient. I'll repeat, reading the PMBOK guide, no matter how many times, no matter 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, it is not sufficient for anyone to clear the PMP exam. Right. Now, the other thing is, when you start reading the PMBOK guide, right, when you are fresh off, you're done with, let's say you have some sort of experience in project management, or you have read project management as, let's say, as a subject in your college or somewhere, and you now start preparing for the PMP exam and you start going over the PMBOK guide. In the beginning, the PMBOK guide will seem pretty easy. It seems pretty straightforward and it seems very easy, you know, it's easy language. Although, yeah, moving on after some time, you may find it dry and you may find it boring, but nonetheless, the language that the PMBOK guide uses, right, it's not rocket science. It's quite easy, it's straightforward, it's understandable. But the problem arises when you read the PMBOK guide. Let's say you're done reading the PMBOK guide completely. You may not remember every single thing on every single page. That's impossible, humanly impossible. But the problem arises when you take up a mock exam. That's where the problem arises, because PMP exam is a tricky exam. Remember, I used the word tricky. I didn't use the word hard. I didn't use the word if it's an easy exam. It's not easy. It's not hard, but it's tricky. It definitely is a tricky exam, and certain questions that you'll find in the exam will be very easy, but the way they will be worded is going to be tricky. So PMP is a tricky exam. Make no mistakes about it. It is not an easy exam. It is not a very difficult exam, but it is a tricky exam. You can read the PMBOK out and out, and you can learn a lot of things from the PMBOK guide, but that is not a guarantee for clearing the PMP exam, that is. So what exactly is required for someone to be able to clear the PMP exam? Well, real life project management knowledge, experience, and skills is definitely required. It is a must for anyone trying to attempt the PMP exam. So you can read the PMBOK guide, you can read the other books, other reference books. But if you do not have real life project management knowledge, skills, experience, it is going to be difficult for you to clear the PMP exam. So you don't have to really be a project manager as such to clear this, to attempt and clear the PMP exam. But at least you need to understand the entire life cycle of the project. You need to understand right from the requirements to the design to coding, testing, deployment. All these phases you need to be pretty sure of. You must have some idea about all these. You must have been worked in all of these phases. You must have experience of working in all of these, because that is required for you, which is mandatory experience for you to be able to even be eligible for the PMP exam, that is. So like I said, reading the PMBOK guide cover to cover multiple times, or learning everything that there is in the PMBOK guide is not enough to clear the PMP exam. Real life knowledge, skills, experience of project management is required. Now, one last thing before I log out from here is the fact that PMP exam is not a test of memorization. PMI is not testing you on how much you can memorize, how much of the project management knowledge can you memorize. No, it is not a test of memorization. It is not a test of, certain people call it photographic memory. They look at certain things and they can kind of have a photographic image of that material in their head. That is not going to help in the PMP exam. So PMP is not a test of memorization. PMP is not a test of your photographic memory. It is not a test of the PMBOK guide. It is a test of project management skills, experience, and knowledge that you will gain not just from the book, not just from the PMBOK, not just from the other reference books that you are going to refer to, but also from the real life project management experience as well. One last thing, like I mentioned, PMP is a tricky exam. The questions that you will see, most of them are going to be scenario based questions. You are not going to find the answers to those questions directly in the PMBOK guide, unless and until you apply the knowledge that you learn in the PMBOK guide and you apply them to those scenario based questions. That is how you will be able to answer those questions. Straightforward questions will be very less, will be very minimal. Most of the questions in the exam are going to be scenario based, and some of the questions might be worded in a tricky fashion. So over here at PMP Lounge, we have covered a lot of such tricky questions and sample questions that we do in our videos every now and then. And other than that, I am also planning on doing a video on how to kind of gauge these tricky questions. We have already done a video on the questions that are very wordy questions. And if you're watching this live, I know some people are watching this live, so you will not find the links to those videos in the description. But later on, I am definitely going to include those links in the description so that you can go over those other videos, and they will definitely be helpful in your PMP preparation. So one last time, reading PMBOK guide cover to cover multiple times is not going to help you in clearing the PMP exam whatsoever. It is important, it is recommended that you read PMBOK guide multiple times probably, but the other reference books and the real life project management skills, experience, knowledge is definitely a must for you to be able to clear the PMP exam. So that is all that I had in this video. My name is Shoaib. I'm the voice behind all the training videos that you see on PMP Lounge YouTube channel. Subscribe to us if you haven't done so already, and check us out on our social media, facebook.com/PMP Lounge and twitter.com/PMP Lounge. And as always, do check out the website pmplounge.com, your #1 free resource for PMP exam as well as project management industry information. So that is all that I had. See you guys later. Bye-bye.